So let's talk about the word Islam. For a lot of people, it brings to mind a very specific set of rituals and practices. But what if that's just scratching the surface? What if the Qur'an is actually pointing to something much, much deeper, a kind of internal operating system? Well, today, we're going on a little linguistic journey to try and uncover exactly that. So if I asked you that question right now, what is Islam? What's the first thing that pops into your... For so many of us, the answer is a kind of checklist of actions. And yeah, that makes perfect sense. Most of us were taught that Islam is defined by these 5 pillars. And look, they are absolutely essential practices, no doubt about it. They're a huge part of the tradition. But what if they aren't the thing itself, but the outward expression of something else entirely? See, here's the twist. These rituals, as important as they aren't the system itself. They're actually the result of the system. The Quran seems to suggest that Islam is a really profound internal methodology. Okay, so how do we even begin to understand this deeper system? Well, we can't start with the rituals. That's kind of like starting a book on the last page. To really get it, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to its foundation. Here's a great way to think about it. You would never try to teach a kid advanced calculus before they've even learned basic arithmetic, right? 1 plus 1 comes first. The exact same logic applies here. To grasp the whole system, we have to start with the foundational principles. And the Quran points us again and again to one person as the originator of this path, Abraham. It presents his way not just as some historical story, but as the actual essential blueprint for this inner system. So his journey? Well, that's our starting point. So how does this whole system build from that foundation laid by Abraham? It all starts with our first key term, a word that really unlocks the intellectual component of this system. That word is Silm. Now, when we look at how the word Silm is used in the Quran, its most direct, straightforward translation is a ladder, or maybe a staircase, something you climb. And this verse illustrates that perfectly. It talks about a silm to the sky, something you would use to ascend, to climb up, to get to a higher place, a tool for elevation. Simple enough, right? Well, this is where it gets really fascinating, because another verse uses the exact same word, but it adds one crucial little detail that completely challenges this simple definition. And there it is. That's the turning point. The verse says, a silm in which they listen. Now think about that. You don't listen in a ladder, you listen on a ladder. This tiny detail is a massive clue that Silm might not just be a tool you climb, but an enclosed space that you actually enter. And that completely shifts the analogy, doesn't it? It goes from a ladder to an elevator. I mean, a ladder requires your constant effort every single step, but an elevator, that's a system you submit to. You just step inside and it elevates you automatically. So just think about the qualities of this elevator. It lifts you to a higher state of understanding intellectually and spiritually. It's this enclosed, safe space that shields you from all the outside noise so you can actually focus. It's a place where you can listen, where you receive inspiration and clarity, and most importantly, it only works the moment you surrender to the process. So you see, Silm isn't some physical object at all. It's the intellectual methodology of submission. It's the conscious act of stepping inside a system of thought that's way bigger than your own and trusting it to elevate you. It's a process of surrender that leads directly to ascent. Okay, so if Silm is the intellectual process of submission, what's the outcome? What does it produce? Well, that brings us to our second core concept, its emotional counterpart, Salam. When you put them side by side like this, the relationship becomes crystal clear. Silm is the active intellectual process of submission. Salam is the emotional state that you get as a result, that profound feeling of peace and security that comes from that submission. One is the cause, the other is the effect. And Salam is so much more than just the absence of conflict. It's described as this deep-seated tranquility, a calm that comes when you purify your inner world, when your thoughts, your heart, and your actions are all moving in alignment with a higher divine order. You see this idea of Salam all over the Qur'an. It's the condition for entering paradise. It's a blessing that's bestowed directly on the prophets, kind of like a sign of their total alignment. And it's more than just a word. Get this. The word for greeting here, tahiyya, comes from the root for life. So their greeting isn't just a simple hello. It's an action that actually gives life to their relationships. It embodies that state of being. And here is the perfect example of just how powerful this internal state can be. For Abraham, his state of Salam was so profound that it literally transformed his external reality. The fire, which should have been an instrument of destruction, actually became a source of comfort and peace for him. It just goes to show you that Salam is an internal state that can master the external world. So we've got the intellectual process of submission, Silm, and the emotional state of peace that it creates, Salam. Now let's put it all together. And this brings us to a new, completely reframed definition. Islam isn't just a religion of rituals, it is the complete integrated system. It's the methodology, the Silm, that you engage with intellectually, which in turn produces the ultimate goal, a life lived in a state of profound inner and outer peace, which is Salam. And that brings us to our final thought for today. If we accept this definition, that Islam is a complete system for achieving total peace through submission, it begs a really powerful question. It suggests the true opposite isn't belief versus disbelief. The true opposite is something else entirely, and figuring that out might just change everything.